Okay, so um, when thinking about today's lesson, what I wanted to do with you guys, I really wanted to think about how do we get away from the idea of everything having to be perfect and really start thinking about making these baby steps become habit because we're making them a part of our lives. So, because that's the goal, right? That's why we do baby steps, because you're supposed to make small changes over time that just become habit. And then before you know it, you have a lifestyle that you're living. That's the goal, right? So if we break that down and we look at it compared to typical like diets and things like that, it can't just be that we're just going about it in the same way that I lost track of my notes. See, I am not all here today. But we can't have it be where we're not thinking of it as a change that's going to be permanent. And to make it permanent, here's where we're back in action. To make it permanent, it has to be able to blend seamlessly in with your day, right? So I think if we look at what disturbs the average day, if we're not feeling well, if our schedule's off, if we're traveling, if we're with the holidays coming up, we're not even staying at our own homes. If we're looking at the issues that make baby steps more difficult than the average every day, right? That's what we really need to do. Because if you can make them stick during those times and during those days, then you'll have no problem when things are going smoothly. But if you only approach it like you can only do them when things are going smoothly, you're going to be very limited and you're not going to end up making those consistent changes. And then it becomes a diet, because diets, are built on this premise of the transformation. You dedicate everything you got to really trying for 30 days, for 3 months. But then what happens after that? Because you can't live that way. So if that's what we're looking to do, we need to figure out how can we make them happen when all of the shit is hitting the fan? And then we work backwards from there. Okay. So that's the first step is don't look at it like you have to have everything going perfectly to be able to have your baby steps be a priority. That's what we're trying to figure out is how do we make them a priority? How are we going to replace this? Right? So now what are the situations that make that for you guys? I want you to tell me in the chat. What are the situations that you feel make it the hardest to stay consistent with your baby steps? Tell me in the chat. What are the situations that you find make it the hardest for you to stay consistent with your baby steps? Okay, I see in the chat, we got traveling, we got stress, got flares, chronic illness and anxiety, high stress and my schedule getting weird, from work right into evening activities all the way until bedtime, just like the chaos of the day, traveling schedule being thrown off. Yeah, so, and those of you who said like stress and stuff like that, try to think, be specific. Like when I get most stressed, I don't feel like cooking. When I feel most stressed, I don't feel hungry. Like really try to think, what are the situations that throw you off? I would say a lot of these can be broken down more. I'm going to encourage you guys to think about even traveling. What situations inside of traveling tend to make it hard? Same with anxiety, break that down, try to be specific. Usually hit in a PMS headache, that's specific. Stress for me equals the fatigue and flares kick up, right? So that makes it so that you don't have the energy to do things, right? Gas station food when traveling, specific, very good, exactly. Not having access to a kitchen, lots of takeout when I'm traveling. Exactly. So these are the things you want to think of rather than trying to just overall have the goal of a baby step and try to just make it work, right? You really want to start thinking about this from a place of strategy. And if you know that there are certain situations that are just going to completely throw you, and it's going to be typically like you're not even thinking about your baby steps, let's plan for those. That's your plan B, so to speak. I crave my safe foods and immediate dopamine. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Constantly on the go. So this is amazing. I would actually, now I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you some of the more common ways around these, but for you guys that are saying all these now, I feel like it's almost opening up, like this could be a good journaling exercise. It's opening you up to the idea of like, what are those situations? There's many that you're going to encounter, right? So make a list for yourself and maybe use this as a way to make a manual, so to speak, for yourself. Because if our goal, with whether it's with me, with your coach, is to figure out solutions to the problems that you have that keep you from staying consistent, then a list of these situations is invaluable information. So I mean, it might even be valuable for you guys to have to just refer back to, just to know what you're up against, right? Track your growth around these areas. But all in all, the idea is to not think about these situations. Don't beat yourself up for them. Outsmart them. So let's talk, okay, convenience is one of the issues, right? So a lot of you guys are saying if you're on the road a lot or you have a lot of activities after work, let's say you're going from one thing to the next, then you'll typically, I mean, and kind of goes hand in hand, I guess, with like not having energy or not feeling well, you might order more takeout, right? Well, there's ways to make your order work, right? With your baby steps when you're getting takeout. I think the important thing is to one, learn what they are, and then two, to not feel restricted by them, right? Like, let's say you're going to get takeout. I'm trying to think of my favorite meal. I mean, I'm trying to think, you know what? One of my favorite hacks, I haven't been to a mall and I don't even know how long, but I've been craving this. Like Nick makes a version that I'm like obsessed with. I have to give you guys his recipe. But like I remember when I would go to the mall food court, it was like damn, I forget what it's called. It was like one of those like Chinese hibachi situations where they're like making it in front of you and like the lady's handing you samples as you walk by. What is it? Sarku Japan. Oh my God. But it was only like griddle top chicken. They didn't have sushi. So I don't know. It was a mall food court situation that this was happening at. But it was like typically you would get the meal with rice, chicken, veggies, and everything like that. And I asked for no sauce on it. I had my own gluten-free soy sauce, right? And I asked them to do extra veggies instead of the rice. And I would get like 2 orders of this. Like I would just sit and I would eat until I was satisfied. This was like the very beginning when I started making changes, right? Was because I used to be like, I can't eat here. The food court's all bad. Or I would be like, well, I don't want to be the only one in my friend group not indulging. Like there were so many different situations, but if I found a way to make the food suit what I wanted and what I was craving, then amazing, right? So for me, whenever I do get like Chinese food or anything like that, I always order extra and I just get like a meat and a veggie, right? So if I'm doing takeout and they're open late too. So I feel like that's my go-to is just meat and veg. I love it. And then I'll add my own soy sauce here or my own sesame oil or whatever and just kind of zhuzh it up in my own house, but I don't get the rice because if I get the rice, then it drives my blood sugars nuts. So that's one of my own baby steps. And having that picked out already also helps, right? So if I'm like, let's say for those of you who are saying stress, chronic illness, whatever, decision fatigue, at least for me when I'm flaring, is huge. I don't want to have to scroll through, it's like first world problems. I don't want to have to scroll through DoorDash and make decisions. So having like my basic takeout orders ahead of time, like to know what I usually get where, helps tremendously. I'm trying to think what other takeout. Having your own bread at home and getting takeout, any kind of sandwich like burger, whatever, grilled chicken sandwich, anything, you could put on your own bread. I did this. I don't think I went over bread on the replacements Zoom I did last week, actually. But Smart Buns, if you look those up, they're amazing. They have the texture of like a true like burger bun. And I just like having those on hand. So if I'm ordering takeout, I make it my own. Get rid of the issue that, the part of the food that would be the issue, which would be the bread for me. So what other takeout do I typically do? When I've done sushi in the past, look for the option that's Naruto. It's wrapped up. I mean, look, if you're going to be upset for a week because you didn't have the rice, my policy, have the rice. But if your baby step is to be looking at like dinner carbs, let's say, which is a big one for me, I do the Naruto roll if I'm getting from sushi because it's wrapped in cucumber, not rice. Um, how much is our smart buns? Smart buns usually, I feel like they go for sort of like $10 a box. If you look on nutrition.com, it's one of my favorite places. I honestly haven't even looked for it anywhere else. And I've had such a big stockpile of them. I am up to order more though. Let me know if you want my discount code for nutrition, but I'm sure, I don't know if they're on Amazon. I would check, but I'll send you the link later if you want. Just checking the comments. My Chinese go-to place has a Weight Watchers menu. I can get shrimp cooked in wine and garlic only and a side of broccoli. Useful thing I found at the menus. Ooh, that sounds yummy. Oh, and yeah, so I answered that. Smart buns. I didn't tell you how many. I think it comes with like, if I remember correctly, I think it's like, is it 12 buns a box or no? I don't know. I have a big stockpile of them in my freezer and I haven't ordered them in a minute. So 6 per box, Nick just told me. 6 per box typically. For sushi, I usually try to get sashimi and a bowl of rice. I tend to eat the fish more and not as much rice as I would with a sushi roll. Ooh, it sounds yummy. The discount code for nutrition is Mish10. MICH 10. It's me. Okay. So, let's see. Well, let me ask you guys, what kind of takeout places do you like? Tell me your takeout orders. Maybe I can help you convert them based on your baby steps. Wegman's entire sushi bar is gluten-free. I peel the rice off. Ooh. I fear I would not be able to peel the rice off. I would be like, this is sacrilege, needs to go down the gullet. Usually, if I'm not doing a Naruto roll, because sometimes places, this reminds me, sometimes places don't have them, or I'll be honest, they're like way too expensive for me to justify. I'll usually do just like one, like a spicy salmon roll or something. I'll put in the notes, like no, breadcrumbs at all. So, and then I'll just, make like a spicy mayo at home or something for myself to zhuzh it up if they don't have Naruto. What else? What else are some takeout option or what like your takeout of choice that you would want to convert for your baby steps? Tell me and I'll help you convert them. Tell me in the chat. And then in the meantime, I'm going to talk about another situation. No energy. How do you do it when you don't have energy and maybe ordering is not an option? How do you just slop something together real quick when you have minimum energy? So I try to always keep some kind of vegetable frozen in my freezer. And I try to make it so that even if I'm feeling like crap, I just want to make 2 things. I'll usually do some kind of main item and some kind of frozen veggie, which I can season pretty easily. You all know my drain the water hack, so you drain the water out of whatever you're making and you're good to go, right? If you're really low energy. Like I've microwaved a bag of string beans before, put some butter, some sesame oil and soy sauce in there, shook it up and sat down on my couch with it, so I can keep it very casual. And then I'll have some kind of, usually typically we'll have some kind of frozen option for protein in there as well. Buying burgers pre-formed and everything, like We get them from Costco where they it just comes like a long package. And I don't know, I'm very weird with packaging, right? Like as a neurodivergent person, I get very weirded out by packages of meat. I know that sounds crazy, but this, it's like a long tube of them. So you can just rip one of the patties off the top of it, pop it in the air fryer, done. I'll usually do that, maybe some feta, a veggie. If it's like a bad flare day and I have no energy at all. Um, what do you guys find when you have low energy days? Let me see what you wrote here. First in the comments though. I love it. I love it. Okay, scrolling. Thin crust pizza with a crust that doesn't suck and isn't made of cauliflower. Okay. I love to keep, if you can find them, I get them at Walmart. Quest pizzas. You can freeze them, throw them in the oven, and they're actually really friggin' good. They're high protein. I don't know specifically how many carbs. I always have to adjust my insulin based on the label because I just don't remember. But not high. And it's not farty like cauliflower. Like a lot of the cauliflower substitutes, you know, I find it very farty. So, and it's just never firm enough. Like it's like even if it's a cauliflower crust, I feel like it's good for what it is, but it's never like chewy enough or firm enough, in my opinion. It just always kind of feels like you're eating a vegetable. Um, but yeah, I love the Quest pizzas. And then if it's like a higher energy day, you can do only dough, a hack for the only dough. And for those of you who are new in here, only dough is like my general, like use it for anything kind of throw together dough that is the foundation of it is almond flour and cheese and xanthan gum. That's like it. Only dough is amazing. A hack for that, have it all pre-portioned in a bag. Like if you package it together, like your almond flour, your cheese, your xanthan gum, shake it up and just store it in a gallon bag together in batch amounts, then you can even freeze it. Then you can just dump it in a bowl and microwave it and mix it, and there you go. You have only dough. You don't have to measure anything out. You don't have to take like you just take it out of the fridge, put it in a bowl, microwave at 40-second intervals while you're stirring and a dough forms. So, I don't know if that helps pre-measuring it. Hubby and I usually get dumplings, wings, and chicken with broccoli from our local Chinese takeout, plus pork lo mein, but that's mostly for him. Any suggestions for how to make it healthier? So I am a big fan of getting things without sauce and then putting them in a pan and frying them up with like some sesame oil, soy sauce, butter when I get it at home. I feel like I like my food really, really warm, like hot. So I like it because it feels like fresh cooked, even though you're just taking what was just delivered to you. I usually will try to have some kind of a noodle substitute at home. Like palmini is really great because it's very difficult to overcook it. You just strain it, cook it with whatever you're making. So you could definitely throw it in with whatever you get, like chicken and broccoli. I usually will take it's like mixed vegetable and tofu. I love doing that one with palmini. Um, I'm a big fan of shrimp and extra broccoli. Um, my stomach doesn't always like the broccoli, but that's neither here nor there. Um, and then I would say, yeah, I like to sauce it and add sides to it myself. So I love dumplings, man. That was a favorite while I was pregnant. Whew, I miss it. I wish there were more accessible, like low carb, gluten-free dumplings. They're so hard to recreate too. It's crazy. So it's almost like I would spring for that if it's like a special occasion, let's say, and know that I might feel shitty the next few days. But that's just because of me, because now that I am not pregnant, I cannot have gluten at all again. So, I recently tried, what is it egg foo young? It's like an omelet with the meat of whatever your choice is in it, and it comes pre-made. It's so good. Oh my God, I just remembered that. Now I want to order that. It was delicious. I got shrimp last time, and I'm sorry if you don't like any of these things, but I get very excited about anything to do with shrimp and eggs. So where did you say you got burger patties from? Costco. Costco. I can't get this as takeout anymore, but I love loaded potato pizza on olive oil base. Oh my God, that sounds so good. I want that. I live in a small town. There's only two restaurants nearby, barbecue and burgers. There's a place 20 minutes away that makes a mean breakfast sandwich with bacon, eggs, fried green tomatoes, lettuce on sourdough bread. That sounds absolutely amazing. I feel like, if you find there are some other good roll options. I can go over them. If you guys want, I can put this up as like a cheat sheet as well in the page, like I did with the protein. I can do like a gluten-free cheat sheet. I think I'm just gonna do that. I said it out loud. It sounds like a great idea. So look for that at some point this week. So but there's different rolls out there that I feel like you've got a good barbecue place, you got a burger place. That breakfast sandwich sounds amazing. All of it, throw it on a different roll. If that's your baby step. So I'm sorry, I didn't preface all of this to say is that all of us watching this have different baby steps, right? The last part of this call, I want you to tell me which of your baby steps you struggle with the most. So far, I've only been asking what throws you off with your baby steps, but I don't want you to be hearing all of this and be like, do I need to worry about this? Do I need to think about gluten or carbs if we're not there yet, or that's not a part of your plan? I am very insulin resistant as a type 1 diabetic. I always need to be cutting back the amount of insulin I actually am taking. So for me, and I can't have gluten because your girl can't have gluten, trust me. So those are the two things that are always going to be at the forefront for me. But at the end, I want you guys to tell me your specific baby steps and I can help you apply them to like different real world situations. Okay. So sorry that preface came pretty much in the middle of my entire Zoom, but we're working with what we got today, which is Timu brain. Okay, we went out for pizza the other night for my birthday, and the place I was at did gluten-free crust with cauliflower, potato, and leek. Ooh, it was so good. Even Hubs was super impressed. Amazing. Oh, now I want potato and leek soup. Love all the suggestions. I'm happy. That's my favorite thing to do. I love to problem solve with food. I don't know. It's like an art. I love it. Um, Yeah, I don't know anything about gluten-free stuff. Yes. So I'm sorry to the people who are not necessarily gluten-free, don't think you have to be. It's just more so I want the process of what I'm suggesting to you for you to do for yourself, for your own baby steps. Like you need a quick guide for food, like each cuisine. I think we have that. We have that in the classroom. I can repost that link because I know I've been revamping it. I can post the link to just that resource in the page. Mine is more protein. I love carbs though. Okay, so we're gonna get into your baby steps. So I'm gonna leave it here before I keep scrolling. So once you've figured out the situations that block you up, right? Like whether it's figuring out how to do takeout, whether it's not having energy, whether it's traveling and being at the mercy of the road ahead of you. You don't know, it's not easy to plan every step of every trip, right? So being able to be flexible is really the big deal here. And that doesn't always come easy to a lot of us, myself included, they can feel like there's a lot of gray area, but so how do you go about fixing that? You screw up, right? You eat something that makes you feel like shit. No one should ever feel guilty or anything like that. But I know that in the past, that was something I had to work through, was feeling like if I didn't stick to my quote unquote plan, that I was like a failure, and I had to address that. But the issue is you need to stop beating yourself up for these things and you need to take them in as data. You are an endless source of data. If you feel like crap one day, go back and look at the data. If you want to look at how to figure out a situation where your baby step, you're going to make sure you stick to your baby step because it went out the window today. Fantastic. Look at the data. Why did it go out the window today? what could have been a plan that you could put in place. Even if you don't think that same thing is going to happen again, still plan for it like it would. Still look at it as data so that you can understand, like I said in the beginning, making your list of obstacles you have, you still want to think of it as having like a manual, a playbook. When this kind of shit hits the fan, this is my kind of process. You know, that flexibility comes with you learning yourself. And to do that, you also have to stop being a jerk to yourself if you don't get things right off the top. Like, there's no such thing as right or wrong. Everything is data. When I started thinking that way, it became so comforting to me because I was like, you can't mess up. If you stop being a jerk to yourself and stop holding yourself to this you pass or fail standard, then you can learn so much from yourself. And then you keep trying again until you get it, then you can't fail. So stop beating yourself up, and start looking at yourself as that endless source of data. That is really my biggest tip. Okay. So that being said, let's troubleshoot a little bit here. So mine is protein. I love carbs though. Same. So I think the hard part of that is, well, for right now, Chastity, there's no harm in having carbs, I think, because I don't, certain people will be trying to get their blood sugars lower and certain people won't be. And I think that your amount of carbs that's suitable for each of us is individual, right? It's not an exact science in terms of grams. You've heard me say this. I don't believe in macros, but I do believe in overall lifestyle changes accommodating whether or not you have insulin resistance, hypoglycemia, all of these things, because that plays into our hormones. So focus on one thing at a time first, the adding more protein. Think about what do you find that is the biggest obstacle in adding more protein each day? Like if you look at how your day tends to play out. Lack of options. So then that would be the first place that I would think that I would troubleshoot with you on, and you think about lack of options. Okay, so then maybe let's work on picking 3 or 4 that are just easy to have around and you can kind of graze on them and pick on them from time to time until you start to build up more options that you can go to until you can start creating more meals and things off of them. But a domino process, so to speak. So that's how I would take that data is say, well, for me to make this stick, I need to have options. So I would start with rotating out 3 every so often. And in that too, you'll find like your safe foods. Like there's been stuff that I've tried that I can't stand. And then there's been stuff that I've tried that I'm like, oh, adding that to the list, that's in the rotation from now on. And, that just comes from trying stuff. What protein to pick, energy to prepare it, and how my stomach will handle it. The stomach part is the hardest one. That is really hard, especially when you don't know, like when you have a situation with your gastro system where you don't know what's causing what specifically. There's no specific trigger. There's just sometimes it acts up badly. I think that makes any eating difficult because you're nervous that you're going to set yourself off, and you don't have that concrete, like everything is making you feel like crap. So what do you pin it to, So I can understand that it feels like if certain foods will not do that to you, and they tend to be starchier, that also makes it harder. Energy to prepare it. Oh, I know you just got yourself an air fryer. So we can go over if you want, we'll text about it tomorrow. If you need some help figuring out how to just keep stuff on hand to throw in the air fryer. Love it. Okay, so I think the next one was eating consistently. That was hard to do when I first started. I'm trying to get back to it, and so far I'm making good progress. Yeah, you are. Okay. So the hardest part with eating consistently is that it's it's like cyclical. So if you eat consistently, like you start eating in the morning and stuff like that, then you tend to be more hungry throughout the day. If you miss that window, it's difficult to get those cues back. And then when you go a while where your cues are, you're eating randomly, your body expects that randomly. So it's hard to set up those cues. So I think it's great that you've set up those cues, but if anybody else is having a hard time eating consistently, I would say you try to start at the top, which is your morning. If you set yourself up to have a good amount, a good breakfast, just a good amount of food in the morning, it doesn't have to be within 10 minutes, like you can space it out while you can graze throughout the morning and stuff like that. But that tends to set the day up because then your body will ask for more food throughout the day. And it's just a little easier to build off of it from there. Another tip I've given a client in the past, now that I'm seeing Amanda's name, is the snackle box. So in the morning, put a bunch of stuff that especially for those of you who work from home, you put a bunch of the stuff in your little snackle box or like your, just a plate for whatever, but I like the name. You like gather a bunch of snacks and stuff, like a little charcuterie situation, but not fancy, just a bunch of stuff, and just keep it in front of you. And throughout the day, at different times, grab a bite here or there. Disregard the idea of meal and snack and think about it in terms of I just need to fuel my body. So it might be a little bit easier to think about taking each opportunity as you can throughout the day to fuel your body. It might be easier to do that rather than trying to think about like set meal times, quote unquote. Okay. It's hard to stay consistent and not rely on carbs. Yeah, and not for nothing, they're convenient, they're comforting, they hit on all the cylinders. They settle your stomach a lot of times, it's really difficult. That's why a lot of my clients, and I'm sorry if you guys hate me for this, but I will have a lot of my clients get glucose monitors and take blood test and take their blood sugars because I don't want to automatically assume that somebody can't have a lot of carbs because there are some variations of hormonal imbalance where you do need to eat more carbs, and it has to be more balanced, let's say, but going very low carb would screw you up. So it's not automatically that carbs are the enemy and everybody should necessarily be low carb. But like, for example, myself as one of them with insulin resistance, you do have to really dial in those carbs. It's the hardest part of it is that you have a body that's craving carbs and a body that doesn't do well with carbs. And, the only way around that is strategy. The only way. And then it breaks. And then you're not insulin resistant, you don't have to worry as much. But I don't like to just assume, and just have someone on a low carb diet miserable when that's not what they need necessarily. Okay, scrolling. Once multiple baby steps are in play, having to prioritize, say a product is gluten-free but high carb count or sugar-free but has gluten, etc., something like that. Okay, good point. So I try to make sure that the items that I replace stuff with, I try to make sure that, well, first of all, I literally can't have anything. I think it might be easier in a weird way for me because I can't have gluten without getting sick. So the chances I'm going to pick something with gluten, like this has to be truly worth it if it's more than just like a bite, a nibble, whatever, because my colitis don't play. So I think that does make it easier because if you don't have that kind of reaction, then I could understand it being on the same playing field. But for me, if it has gluten automatically, I can't. And then let's say it is gluten free, but it's higher carb. I don't use that necessarily as a replacement because then it's still going to cause an effect that I don't want, but in my blood sugars. So I really try to find products and keep them on hand that cross off all the boxes because I don't want to have to think about it. you know? Um, if it's an Now that being said, if the option is either eat nothing and starve or have something that's got carbs in it, then I'm going to feed myself because fed is always number one most important thing. Like no matter what, we all need to eat. We deserve it's a right, you know? So, I would say that's usually my go-to. Now, if it has like it's not low carb, but like let's say, okay, so the Trader Joe's gluten-free bread. It's I think it's like 11 grams per slice, which isn't low carb if you're having two for a sandwich, but it's lower carb than the Canyon Bakehouse ones, which are like 16 grams a slice. So like if I'm really wanting a sandwich and I that's like my convenience bread that I keep on hand, I don't feel bad about that, right? So it's not like I'm being so picky with the carbs that it's really when it's like a gluten-free option that's got, let's say, 60 grams of carb in it, right? Like some of those Char products, especially, like they can get really up there in carbs. That's when I'm like, I can't do it because that'll screw me up. So I hope that explains that. I hope that's clear enough. There's nuance there, but carbs and gluten are pretty high on the totem pole for me. Um, okay. Ooh, we love a snackle box. Yeah, and we can go over the air fryer for sure. I can't wait for you to get it because once you see it, it's so simple. It's so simple. Okay, so anybody else, any other situations where a specific baby step that you have feels most difficult? And it doesn't have to be that you're currently having that. If you've had that in the past and if it happened again, you wouldn't know how to handle it, that counts. Situations where you have a hard time maintaining a baby step and what that baby step is. Here, I literally look like I've been dragged through the town square today. Tell me in the chat. I'm trying to think of ones that I've heard on calls too. Um, that it doesn't go with takeout, basically. Um, I guess I've had clients who are really not feeling well, so they're not eating much throughout the day. And I mean, I think I kind of mentioned that too. You just skim what you can. You take bites of what you can. I said this on a recent Zoom too, but you think of it as anytime you take a bite, it's like when you're playing a game and you're collecting tokens. Like, you're walking, was it Mario back in the day where you're like walking around, you'd find that cute little star thing and you grab it and you're like, woohoo, right? So every time you take a bite of food, you're finding a star, woohoo, right? It's a token, let's say. So you're walking around your day collecting tokens. You see the opportunity to have a few bites of this, take a bite, you got a token. You got the opportunity to eat, I don't know, a protein bar or something. Okay, you get tokens. You eat a portion of your kid's fruit they left behind. Okay, you get a token. When you're having difficulty eating, a few bites here, a few bites there, still better than not eating all friggin' day. So keep that in mind. Um, Proteins, but I'll go over that with you, like you said, and possible air fryer options. It's hard because I don't really love meats. Okay, that's a good thing to talk about. I was vegan for many years or have GI issues. Yeah, no, I could feel like I could live without meat if I'm being honest. Like I love fish. I do. You guys know I love my seafood. Um, but tofu is great to use in different capacities. I feel like I've just barely scratched the surface of using tofu. But there are tons of recipes and I can try to include some good ones in the next couple of bite builder recipes. The weekly bite builder, I can throw in some non-meat options now that you're saying that, because I do have quite a few clients who don't eat meat. So I hate tofu from being a vegan. See, but there are so many ways to make it. What do you hate? You hate every single way that's ever been made? I don't believe it. I'm an egotistical chef. I'm like, we will make it in a way you will like it. But there are, I would say that's my biggest tip too, is try to stay open-minded to thinking of different textures and flavors, because maybe you don't make it the way you would make it every single night that you ate it back then. Maybe it's something completely new in a way you haven't made it, you know? For sure. There are so many different things. Like I follow, God, I don't ever know anyone's handle off the top of my head. I'm really bad. I just follow and know them based on their videos. But there's this one, God, it's gonna bother me. I will send you her Instagram because I haven't a clue as to what her name is, but she does all kinds of crazy things with tofu. I'm like, oh my God. So ones that I want to try, even desserts and stuff, which are really crazy to think about. Um, and then a lot of different veggies have protein in them too. Like peas have a ton of protein. What texture is biscuits and pie, and how do I recreate it? Ooh, in the past, I actually have a couple of different recipes. I will send you the link to my like low carb, gluten-free recipe group. I'm currently in the process of resurrecting it. I used to cook in there all the time, but the recipes all still live in there. I'll send you the link to that, and I have a couple of different pie recipes. Um, Biscuits, you want to make, okay, I'll also send you recipes on that, because biscuits are more of a crumbly kind of texture. So, that would be more of like a coconut flour based recipe. I have one in mind, I'll send to you. But because I feel like it can get very weird when you go into gluten-free biscuit territory. Um, this was also when I was very hardcore plant-based and vegan and didn't touch anything processed. So I basically just made scramble with it or something. Oh, we're gonna make delicious things. We need to redevelop that relationship, because it is such a versatile protein. You deserve to have that option. And yeah, yeah, I feel like that's like such a bad memory of it. We need to give you good memories of tofu. So okay. I hope this was helpful. I know I might not be my normal vibrant self, quick on the uptake self, but I feel like I wanted to do this message because I feel like thinking about it as a strategy and knowing that I'm here to brainstorm food with you at any point, I love doing that. I feel like that was really important, especially going into the next couple of weeks. So, if you need any assistance, feel free to message your coach, message me. You are not a bother. And I hope that you have a great rest of your week. All right. Bye.